Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
In the headlines this Sunday, the 30th of May, as the Pope announces a meeting with Christian leaders from Lebanon, we take a look at the current multifaceted crisis affecting the country. Russia says it will continue with a massive loan to Belarus, despite mounting international concern about the treatment of journalists and dissidents. But first, Pope Francis, during the Sunday Angelus, says the living sign of God the Trinity is love for one another. In the Vatican, I'm Lydia O'Kane. Pope Francis, during the Angelus from St. Peter's Square, recalled the Feast of the Most Holy Trinity this Sunday, describing it as an immense mystery which exceeds the capacity of our mind, but which speaks to our heart because we find it enclosed in that expression of St. John which sums up all of Revelation: God is love.
Dio è amore.
He went on to say that insofar as God is love, and the one and only one, there is also communion between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Addressing the faithful, the Pope explained that it is the Father who gives himself by generating the Son, who in turn gives himself to the Father, and that mutual love is the Holy Spirit, the bond of their unity. This mystery of the Trinity has been revealed to us by Jesus himself, emphasized Pope Francis. He showed us the face of God as the merciful Father. He presented himself, true man, as the Son of God and the Word of the Father. The Pope continued by saying that Jesus spoke of the Holy Spirit, who proceeds from the Father and the Son, the Spirit of truth, the Paraclete Spirit, that is, our Consoler and Advocate. The Feast of the Holy Trinity, said Pope Francis, makes us contemplate this wonderful mystery of love and light, from which we come and toward which our earthly journey is guided.
Ci fa contemplare questo meraviglioso mistero di amore e di luce da cui proveniamo e a cui è orientato il nostro cammino terreno.
In the proclamation of the Gospel and in every form of the Christian mission, Pope Francis underlined, we cannot disregard this unity invoked by Jesus. The beauty of the Gospel demands to be lived and witnessed in harmony among us, who are so different. He continued by saying that this unity is essential to the Christian. It is not an attitude, an expression. No, it is essential because unity is the only way of life. It is essential because unity is born of love, of God's mercy, of the justification of Jesus Christ, and of the presence of the Holy Spirit in our hearts. In words following Sunday's Angelus, Pope Francis said he will receive the leaders of Lebanon's Christian communities in the Vatican on the 1st of July to discuss the deep crisis that the country has been going through for several months. As Nathan Morley reports, Lebanon continues to suffer from the effects of a devastating explosion, high unemployment and political instability.
For the last year, Lebanon has been stuck in political paralysis, with politicians in the country unable to reach an agreement to form a new government. To compound matters, the country is deeply indebted and struggling to raise funds from potential donors. An explosion last year left much of the capital Beirut in ruins. The blast, which killed 200 people, was caused by tons of ammonium nitrate stored in a warehouse in the port not far from the centre of Beirut. The shockwave caused up to $15 billion in damage, as well as leaving 5,000 people injured and over 300,000 people homeless. Even before the explosion, Lebanon was suffering a deep economic crisis and struggling to tackle the coronavirus pandemic. So far, just over 700,000 people have been vaccinated in the country of 6 million people. But as of Sunday, the government is ramping up the vaccination program. As it stands, Lebanon continues to record high unemployment levels, sluggish growth, and holds one of the highest debt ratios anywhere in the Middle East. In recent months, a drop in the Lebanese currency has compounded living standards further. For almost 2 years, bank accounts have been frozen and local banks enforced restrictions on outgoing transfers and cash withdrawals of up to $1,000 per month. For Vatican Radio, this is Nathan Morley reporting.
Russia says it will continue with a massive loan to neighbouring Belarus despite mounting international concern about the treatment of journalists and dissidents. Russian President Vladimir Putin made the pledge in talks with his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko. They met after the European Union imposed sanctions to punish Minsk for diverting a passenger plane and detaining a dissident journalist. As Stefan Boss reports, the two leaders meeting in the southern Russian city of Sochi came amid protests against the Belarusian president in several cities.
Russian President Vladimir Putin was visibly pleased to welcome the man the West views as Europe's last dictator. Speaking in the resort city of Sochi, he even suggested to Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to swim with him after a yacht tour. Putin made clear he wants to maintain a friendship with Belarus and said that despite international concern, Russia will move ahead with a second $500 million loan to Belarus next month. Russia promised Belarus a $1.5 billion loan last year as part of Moscow's efforts to stabilize its neighbor. Minsk received the first installment of $500 million in October. President Putin made clear he disagrees with Western outrage over the detention of a dissident journalist. Several Western nations have accused Belarus of piracy after Belarusian air traffic control informed the pilot of a Ryanair passenger jet of a hoax bomb threat. Minsk scrambled a MiG-29 fighter plane to escort the jetliner down and then detained journalist Roman Protasevich, a prominent critic of Lukashenko who was on board. President Putin whisked away this criticism. We had agreed to hold our talks even before the escalation of multilateral relations after the forced landing of a Ryanair plane, he says. President Putin explains also that he agrees with Lukashenko that it was an emotional outburst from the West. We have things to discuss, even without taking these events into account. However, Putin reportedly did discuss the detention of Sofia Sepaga, the Russian girlfriend of the journalist who was also taken from the plane. President Lukashenko complained that the European Union had banned Belarusian aircraft from entering EU airspace, which includes Belarusian airline Belavia. Belavia has nothing to do with this Ryanair plane landing in Minsk, says Lukashenko. He tells President Putin that his military is blamed for a forced landing and that Belavia is totally destroyed. He also complains that the EU has decided not to fly over Belarusian airspace, which hurts the country economically. He thanks the Russian president that Moscow in turn refuses to accept planes that do not fly over Belarus. But Lukashenko adds they felt it that very minute. The talks between the two leaders came despite protests. In Berlin, Germany and other European cities, such as in Poland and in Lithuania, people gathered for demonstrations to show support for the opposition in Belarus and to demand the release of political prisoners, such as journalist Roman Protasevich. For Vatican Radio, I am Stefan Bos, reporting.
The Iter Europeum initiative, marking the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the European Union and the Holy See, continues to bring new energy and ideas to many of Rome's churches. The project that aims to show and enhance the deep links between the European Union and its 27 member states and the Holy See was launched on the 9th of May, coinciding with Europe Day, and is scheduled to continue until the 27th of June. During this period, each Sunday, liturgical celebrations, concerts and guided tours take place in churches or basilicas that are connected to one of the EU member states. This Sunday, EU ambassadors visited the Irish National Church of St. Isidore near Rome's Via Veneto. Speaking to Vatican Radio's Mario Galgano, the Irish ambassador to the Holy See, Derek Hannan highlighted the bonds the EU and the Holy See have in common.
Relations between the Holy See and the EU are excellent, as Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said after her recent meeting with Pope Francis. The EU sees the Holy See as a promoter of justice in the world and a defender of human rights. My sense is that the Holy See views the EU as a zone of stability in an increasingly fractured international landscape. Ireland has been a fully committed member of the Union since we joined in 1973, and we are fully engaged across the broad spectrum of the Union's activities. Within the EU, Ireland echoes the views of the Holy See on many issues, including, for example, on migration, which is so close to the concerns of Pope Francis, and also on nuclear disarmament. We both agree that even the possession of nuclear weapons for deterrence is unacceptable, and we have signed and ratified the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
And finally, Pope Francis on Saturday met with Atletica Vaticana, the Vatican's own sports association, who are about to compete in the athletic championships of the small states of Europe. Thaddeus Jones tells us more.
Pope Francis received in audience on Saturday morning a delegation of the Atletica Vaticana Association that in a week's time on June 5th will be in the Republic of San Marino to participate in the athletic championships of the small states of Europe. The delegation of the Vatican Sports Association, accompanied by Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi, president of the Pontifical Council for Culture, was received by the Pope shortly after 11 a.m. on Saturday in the private library of the Apostolic Palace. Speaking informally with the group, the Pope noted that it is significant and important that the Vatican has its own sports team, as the Church has at heart all that is human and concerns the human person. And sports, the game, is a central dimension in people's daily lives, he said, so much so that it can be seen as a sacramental of beauty. He underscored the importance of working together as a team, a key element in sports. The Pope went on to recommend to the Atletica Vaticana delegation to always live with a community spirit, training together, running together, and without ever losing sight of the importance of amateur, non-professional sporting activity. The Pope gave each representative of Atletica Vaticana a publication on sports according to Pope Francis, an open letter to an Olympic athlete, published by Italy's La Gazzetta dello Sport, by Pierre Bergonzi and Father Marco Pozza, which will be distributed in several languages at the Olympic Village in Tokyo. In his interview with the Italian Sports Daily, the Pope also speaks about the experience of Atletica Vaticana. The Pope was symbolically presented with a relay baton, white in color with the Latin inscription Simul Curabant, the motto of Atletica Vaticana in reference to the passage in John's Gospel when Peter and John both ran on the morning of the resurrection. Pope Francis autographed the baton that, just like in a relay race, will be handed over at the San Marino Stadium to the representatives of the small states of Europe. Not all 18 states will be present at the championships due to the pandemic and health emergency. Cardinal Ravasi noted that Atletica Vaticana takes part among the small states of Europe with a dimension, that of smallness, which is now more than ever of great significance. He went on to say that even if tensions are not lacking today between some small states, sports, since their inception in human experience, can offer a place of encounter and getting to know one another that makes prejudices and hostility fall away. This happens through dialogue between different cultures and religions, creating friendship between persons and peoples until they run together, simul curare, towards the common goal, that is, peace. I'm Thaddeus Jones.
Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, be sure to check out our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. You can also catch the latest updates on our Facebook page or on Twitter. Many thanks goes to Gustavo Messina in the studio in the Vatican. Thank you for joining us.